and welcome to Rogue Voice, conversations that inspire and connect. I'm Tiffany Cooper.
And I'm Jessica Gomez. Millions of students are out of school now due to COVID-19 related closures, really all over the globe. And I feel like right now we're in a bit of an experiment with distance learning. So today we're going to talk with administrators, we're going to talk with a couple of students and mom about how we're dealing with this and how we're moving forward. I know if I was in high school right now, I can't even imagine how this might feel moving forward.
I totally agree. I think if this happened when I was in high school, I wouldn't know how to respond. I mean, again, when I was in high school, the internet was not prevalent. So I don't know what the alternative would have been and how I would have adapted so quickly. And then also missing my friends and you know, that close connection, that physicality. I would definitely miss hanging out with my friends and all that kind of stuff. But we don't have to worry because we've got some guests that will express their feelings about that. To help explore the challenges and success of distant learning, I would like now to welcome Sheryl Zimmerer, Executive Director of Logos Public Charter School, Christina Kruger, Parent and Regional Business Manager of Pacific Power, and her daughter, Evalina Kruger, who is a student at South Medford High School. Welcome all to the show.
Yes, thanks for having us.
You're welcome.
It looks like Sheryl might be a little bit delayed getting her camera on. Yeah, this is such a big issue. I know when I was, growing up, education was just a huge topic for my family. So my grandmother was a bilingual teacher in public school. And my parents were hippies and wanted to homeschool us completely. So they didn't believe in that traditional model at all. And I feel like that's a discussion that many of us had. Now that I have my own kids, we talk about that quite frequently, and really an effort to improve the education model. And now, fast forward to today, we have turned that upside down and expected to make this pretty immediate change. And I know it's been stressful on a lot of parents and administrators. And I think that now we are actively looking at what those new models really are and how they can help us today. So Sheryl, I would like to start with you because I know Logos doesn't have a really traditional model when it comes to public charter school. Can you tell us a little bit about Logos and what that model is?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you. I'm sorry I wasn't here right at the very beginning. It kicked me off, so I'm right back on. But Logos is the largest non-virtual charter school in the state of Oregon. And our model, every charter school has to have a focus and a different model. And the purpose of charter schools is to be models and catalysts for the traditional school. So our model is a personalized learning model. So people who come to our school are looking for different options than just a classroom. They can do a classroom at our model, but they can also do online. They can also do a book curriculum. They can also do something with a community partner. So we have all these options that people have. And so during this time, the classroom model got shut down, but we had so many other venues that we could go to that it wasn't as difficult for us during this switch over. Obviously, it was still not, you know, people like being in class and we like having kids in our class, but it's been very successful. We have 1,000 K-12 students in our school, all doing 1,000 different things and doing 1,000 different things for every other subject too. Some can do English with a book and math online and science in a class and PE at a karate studio. And so we customize everything for the student. And it's been very successful here in the Rogue Valley. We serve kids across Jackson and Josephine counties.
Well, I wish, you know, I had that type of model as an option when I was growing up, and that was not an option because I think I would have thrived in that kind of option, would have saved me a lot of heartache. But I'd like to just piggyback on that. What changes have you made as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, because right away we could not have students here at our class or in class. So we had to switch them over to one of our other ways of getting them the knowledge that they need for that class. So they had to, if they were taking a class, they would switch over to an online curriculum or a book curriculum. We are still doing, like every other school is doing, the Zoom classes for those who wanted to stay in a class. But we had a lot of people that really come to class for that, you know, experience with each other, and they switched over to online version of school. And we do also have a very popular Scholars Academy that works with RCC and SOU to send kids to college while in high school. We have 7 kids this year graduating with their associate's degree while they graduate with their high school diploma. And so that's a great thing. So we still have kids doing things with RCC. We have kids doing all kinds of things all over the place, but we just had to limit the in-person things that we did.
I get it. Well, you know, we're talking about, you know, students. I'm curious to hear about you, your take on this, Evalina. Has the COVID-19 stifled your motivation, or does it make you more productive?
I'd say coronavirus as a disease hasn't really stifled my motivation for things. But as far as school comes, it's definitely hard to find motivation to do my work. And you'd think with having all this extra time on your hands that you know, want to get it done, but it's just hard to find motivation. I don't know. It's just
Yeah, I feel like that sometimes too. You know, you get to work and you're supposed to prepare for a certain thing, and you kind of start looking around. You're like, ooh, maybe I should check my email. Maybe I should make a phone call. And before you know it, it's 1:30 and you still haven't worked on it. So I think that's true for all of us if we don't have the type of structure that we really need.
Absolutely.
Christina, I mean, as a parent, how are you navigating these challenges with distance learning? How are you working with your daughter? Are there some tips that you can maybe offer some of us moms out there that are working through this?
Yeah. Well, my number one tip is to remember that your children are feeling the stress of all these changes just as much as you are, and to remember to integrate and recognize the opportunity to really help your kids kind of have you know, space to process what's happening, understand that we need to exercise patience with them as they learn how each of their teachers have different teaching styles with this technology. I think some folks were jumping in and trying to keep a real strong regimen around this, and it just doesn't really work. I mean, we have so many external pressures, even if we're in our homes socially distancing, right? So that we're modeling coping skills for our kids, getting them space, and constantly checking in. I have to check in all the time because frankly, I face the same challenges that she does, which are, you know, I get distracted.
How do you check in for your family and routine? Is it that you wake up, you have breakfast together, that's your bonding time, you go over your day, you check out at lunchtime? How do you guys check with each other? It's different for every family.
Yeah, so full transparency, we check in via text. As soon as I open my eyes, I reach over and I send her a message and I say, how did you sleep last night? Because frankly, there's so much information at her fingertips that you know, I struggle as an adult turning my mind off. So she has the same challenges I do. If she's not on a social media outlet, her friends are messaging her with updates. And so it's a lot to process.
Well,
so
we have an audience question here for Evalina and Christina. They ask, what does Evalina and Christina find to be the toughest part of quarantine? The social part of schooling, working your job while also being a teacher, what is that?
I'd say the social part, the hardest part for me, like I went through a long period where I was just really low. And I think that's because I was so deprived of my normal, you know, daily social interactions, whether it's with my teachers or with my friends, especially my friends. So for me, that's been the hardest. And also I find that some kids do better in like the specific school environment. And especially like at our school district, they offer so many different learning tools, whether you're a visual learner or auditory, you know, whatever. So I don't know. I think that's,
Now I'd say my greatest challenge is just making sure that I'm dialed in and keeping that two-way conversation going with my teenager.
right, and making sure that I'm connected with her teachers and finding, my way to navigate through that with her. Her mental health is incredibly important to me. So making sure I understand, how she's feeling emotionally as well as how she's doing with her academics.
Yeah, I mean, I have little ones, so mine are 9 and 5, and I was talking to my daughter a couple of nights ago, and she says, Mommy, she's like, I think it's going to be really hard to sort of go back to the way things were. How am I going to go and talk to my friends? I might feel weird about that, and it might take me a while to readjust. And I'm like, wow, that's really insightful. She's in school right now, and they are making an effort to try to connect the kids, but it's different, And, I mean, I think that you probably see that too, Sheryl. I mean, with keeping people connected and working with your teachers, I mean, what sort of things would you recommend to teachers who are struggling to keep their classrooms connected, to provide the right tools that kids need to kind of make it through this really challenging time for everyone?
So we've done a lot of videos, and I'm not talking about the Zoom or requiring things of people. We've done a lot of fun videos with our that we put out on social media to try. We think it's so important for people to still see our faces and still see that everything's okay. So I do a weekly challenge. I know our high school principal does his weekly Winningham word, and we do a lot of really making sure that people are doing FaceTime. And so one of the things I think is so important is that people do get in face-to-face with their teacher or people that they connect with, because it just is so important that we're not isolated. But for the tips that I have for like kind of a program that someone's trying to do, I want to first start and say, this is completely different than someone who chooses to homeschool on their own, this pandemic of crisis schooling. So don't take what I'm saying and say, we have to be doing all these things, because this is what I recommend for people who are making these choices. So I want to say first that like they were saying, the patience and flexibility is so important during this time. But it's really important for us to do things like set up an area that you can be successful with all the things that you need, making sure that there's not distractions, the television on, the other things that are on, making sure that there's a routine that we have. We all do better with a scheduling and knowing what to expect, and making sure that we get things done before we plan everything else. So as we're starting to open up, we'll start going places. Well, it's really hard to go out and then come back and do school, and just plan for some time requirements and plan for success. And those are things I would always recommend. And I would also recommend that as we go forward, that parents try and work with their kids about where they are, and don't, as much as I love education and getting kids as best of an education as possible, this is not the time to necessarily push it too hard. It's time to make sure that everybody's doing okay and that we get a great education, but they don't have to know it all during this period of time.
I think that's great that you said that you don't have to know it all, and it's about really supporting each other, not giving guilt trips about this. We have an audience question, and it's for you, Sheryl. What does Sheryl see coming for the fall in regards to school? And will students be going back at all? And will it be a modified day?
So I just was reading about it this morning from the Oregon Department of Education. They are expecting that schools will be open in the fall. Now, whether that means that, and they have everything from whether they require like temperatures to be taken, or whether they require less students in a classroom, or a hybrid type of day. We do a hybrid type of day anyway. We have like 2 days a week that kids come to class. And so I think they might have to go to some of that, where maybe there's a flexible schedule. So there's a lot that could happen. I've read the district that I'm in, Medford School District, has their plan of everything from, what if we start like we always do, great, and they kind of know how to do that, but what if it's 70%? What if it's 50%? What if it's 20%? And we all have to make contingencies for all of those plans, so that we can be ready to go. I believe the state of Oregon is planning for around the 1st of June, letting us know what they think the fall will start, their recommendations for the fall. So that's pretty early. That's coming up pretty quick.
Wow.
Yeah, I think, September if we go back in September and then October, November, it goes okay, and then December we end up back where we are, and that's a good possibility. And so this time right now, we're trying to use in our family as a bit of practice and how to use the technology, really getting into that routine. Christina, my next question is really for you. I mean, do you see some of these digital sort of platforms that we're using in sort of this way that we're working through some of the educational issues now? Do you think that that will serve as a blueprint for later on? And what do you think that might look like in the future?
So as a parent and a person involved in business, I think a lot about what is the cost per unit when we're talking about our students. And I think we're all, as Oregonians, very well aware that we have some challenges around costs. So I suspect that we're going to see something in the future where we start to take into consideration all of these external challenges, but also the benefits of cost savings, where we will start to have some kind of hybrid system. I personally am a fan of virtual reality, and so I kind of think that there may be some room for exploration of integrating something that feels more three-dimensional for our kids. I do think that there is actually a benefit too for my daughter to go in maybe not 5 days a week, but 3.5 days a week, where she's learning to integrate her world with technology and learning and still interfacing with people, keeping those skill sets sharp, basically, right? And preparing her for a future. I mean, as an employee, I have to be flexible because my work life is shifting in the same dynamic and way that hers is starting to. So I suspect our kids might even come out with a greater benefit from these hybrid models, because they will be more reflective of what their future is going to look like.
So what do you, I think that's beautiful. And I agree that that's so important, being able to hybrid model and giving students options of what the world is really going to be like when they, what are some of what happens when that's not a reality? What are some of the, I guess, the cautionary tales if that model is not explored?
Well, I think we already have an issue right now with equity around access. I mean, we have communities here in Southern Oregon that have terrible service and connectivity challenges to begin with, just in the, when the students are trying to get their work done before we even went through this, this exercise. So there's a lot of room for growth for us to kind of make sure that we have the infrastructure to support this. But to answer your question, what if it doesn't work? That'll be interesting to see. It seems almost like we have to be fluid ourselves because the landscape keeps changing at every moment. And some of these things are unfathomable, but I suspect that our kids are much more adaptable than we are as adults. And we talked about this not too long ago. They've grown up interfacing socially with technology. And so I think they're a bit more adept, and it's likely that they will start to innovate and kind of guide us and let us know what are the great opportunities here for us to pivot and do a better job at providing them what they need.
I also think that there's a space too for people to realize that maybe they've been going too much, maybe they've been too busy. And I've read some articles about some people who have found that their families, and there is some isolation issues and some mental health concerns, but there's also some people that are feeling like there's a lot of pressure and stress that's been taken off of them. So I'm not sure if people are going to be ready to go back to, like, let's all go 10 different directions and we'll see each other for 2 minutes at the end of the night. I think there's going to be some like reverberations to the community and to our population about, hey, is this really that important to me? Because I think that's what we've gotten to. You start filtering things down and go, okay, is this as important to me as I thought it was? And I guess it's not. And I like being around my family, or, that kind of thing. So I think there'll be some new things coming for us.
I've heard that a lot from parents, and we've experienced that just in our own family. I mean, when you have basketball, ballet, gymnastics, music lessons, and as parents, we want to give our kids everything and expose them to all the wonderful things about the world around them. And, now being not able to we're finding that we're still really having meaningful interactions and meaningful conversations, and we're able to really just slow down and just appreciate, that how our children are growing and their thoughts around what's going on. It's pretty cool, actually. There are some really interesting things that we've noticed as a family.
Well, we have one last question. I mean, we've got times, but this is an audience question. This is for any of you to answer, actually. Is there anything that the community at large can do to help our local schools and students? Is there anything? As I guess a collective is what they're trying to ask.
For me, I think that there's a lot that we can do around just supporting each other. There's I think the district has a lot of, their mantra right now is simplicity and grace. And I think that a lot of times as things go on, we start losing our patience with how things are or how things have been. I know the teachers are working incredibly hard. I know the administrations are working incredibly hard. I know that the community is working incredibly hard. And I know that there are people across every aspect of the spectrum, from we should have never closed to this is gonna, kill us. And we need to make sure that we're being patient with each other and our attitudes, and not really coming after each other and we need to continue to support one another, is I guess where I would go with this, and try and realize that, everybody's got a lot of pressures, a lot of different places. And so sometimes we just don't know what's going on in someone's world. So try and give them that grace and patience and some flexibility during, all this next several months.
I think patience and support is the key. Soft and hard.
Absolutely.
Like the solution for that.
Yeah, I think, I totally agree with that. I think that, there are differences in how people are going to be, how well they're going to be able to adjust to what's happening now. I mean, the equity issue is real. There are people that are struggling out there that don't have the same kinds of tools that some of us have. And so, being kind, being respectful, being patient, and knowing that we are all in this together, right? I mean, there is not one of us that is not being impacted by this. And, we might not be able to control how other people react to that, but we can certainly do a better job of creating, peace and space, and really, controlling how we react, and creating a more positive space in the community, especially for kids that are watching how adults are working through this.
Yeah, I'd like to ask you, Evalina, because when we were talking about this, now we just mentioned we shifted into like students and kids, and you're well adjusted. I mean, you've got the tools, you're doing the work to keep you on top. How have all of your friends had the same type of scenario? Have any of your friends felt that they haven't adjusted well, they haven't come on board, even though they have to do online learning? Are they struggling with mental health? What are some of your friends dealing with?
So every single one of my friends has not had an easy time transitioning, and mental health wise, they've all had their really bad times. Most of my friends have pushed through it, but some are still in it. I see a lot of frustration. Some of my closest friends are struggling with teachers, and it's you have to keep in mind it's a learning experience for us all. It is a little bit concerning to see how it's affecting them it's in a bad way, because they feel like they can't stay on top of their work, or my one friend was saying it's hard for her not to get immediate feedback from teachers,
Connectivity issues.
Yeah, not having that same social interaction, it's very different. So I feel kind of blessed that I've had a somewhat easy transition and adjustment to online schooling, but I know it's not like that for everybody. So.
How do you give support to your friends? Because that's a big issue, is that you're not struggling with maybe the same thing in the same way, but you don't want to sound like you're not, sympathetic to their needs. How do you support friends who are really struggling as a friend?
I've been really keeping my friends in check. Well, not like, that sounded bad, but like I've been checking in with them a lot because I'm concerned. I'm not able to be with them, in person. I can't read them like how I usually can. So any chance I get, I really try to check in, if I see that they're being quiet or, just keeping in mind that they may not be having the same experience and I can empathize with them or, just things like that. I think it's important that you keep in check with the people that you're close to because there's some people that are in really bad situations at home, whether it's a harsh home life or, just in general, like everybody has their own things that they're going through on top of this. So this could be like really hard for people. But, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sheryl, do you have, how are you working with parents and teachers around the mental health sort of issue and the isolation that kids are now feeling? Because, your model really incorporates, getting out in the community and, taking that class out in the community or doing that activity. How are your students and parents adjusting right now with this issue?
Yeah, and thanks for asking it that way, because when people think about like a home-based model of personalized learning, they think people are home all the time. And I think people are almost more involved in the community. Yep. We have like the #1 shot put, and people like will want to take time and do their school and then get on to other things in the community. So it's been difficult for them, like anybody, it's been difficult for all of us. And so we all have to realize that it is different. And so we have a family advocate that we still have employed here, and we ask him to contact with the students that he used to talk to all the time and do some FaceTime with them. We've employed an education psychologist to work with our staff and do some surveys for them around how they're doing and try to really provide support and resources. We also, one of the other things that we've done is we have 3 teachers that do tutoring Monday through Friday from like 8 to 5 it's literally, and if someone in the community needs help, it's sst@logoscharter.com. They send emails and say, I need some help with some math. And so just trying to allow people to have those outlets. I had a teacher this morning and said, can we do something at the end of the year as all of our teachers? And I said, no, there's 70 of us. All together, we can't do that. And so it's just continuing to try and check in on people, like they said, and make sure that people are okay, and having our people that had connections with students to not fall off the face of this earth and continue to have connections.
Yeah, so important. Evalina, you're a bright girl. Are you planning to go to college? And if you do you think you'll do much online classes?
I might have to if like things going in this direction, which kind of sucks, but I was like, oh, I'm sorry.
You didn't mean that. You didn't mean that.
I'm definitely planning to go to college. I'm actually really looking forward to that experience. However, I'm a little bit worried if it's going to be like this, which is definitely a possibility because I'm only a few years off. But I'm definitely looking forward to it. Anyways, I might stay in the Valley to just get some of my high school stuff back up because I kind of fell off the horse freshman year. But I don't think that makes sense. Okay. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. Yeah.
Well, that's great. That's wonderful. Well, I want to thank you, Evalina and Christina and Sheryl, for such a great conversation, for providing us all with such new insight in distant learning. And I'm sure our audience appreciate hearing your perspective, all 3, as Jessica and I learning from you all, experts in the field. So remember to tune in to Rogue Voice online every Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and connect with us on YouTube channel and Facebook, where you can send a message or leave a comment. We want to hear from you. Next week, we'll be discussing the future of travel, tourism, and restaurants, and what our community should expect during the next few months. So tune in. Thank you, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye.